What is up, guys? Fato82 coming at you with some footage from the Rustification UK server, which is a modified Rust server with a modified rule set that focuses on medieval gameplay and player interactions. There's no guns, no C4, nothing really high-tech on this server. It's relatively primitive in terms of what you can craft. Bows and crossbows are the weapons of the day, and what you're taking a look at right now is some footage of the CLOT clan's compound here, the Clot clan. They absolutely are obsessed with cheese. There's lots of references to cheese here, and they have a really nice looking castle which has a main base surrounded by 4 towers, so it's going to be interesting to see them defend this. A raid party is forming outside the walls of this compound, and that consists of the NPCA clan and the TDOC clan. There's estimated to be about 30 raiders in the raid party, and they're going to attempt to breach this compound and go ahead and overtake the throne. As you can see here, there's various buildings inside the compound here. There's an armory with weapons for different members. There are, again, lots of references to cheese. There's an inner throne room here, which once this is breached, that means that the castle has been compromised. And as we go ahead and pan back out here, guys, just take note of the scope of it. Again, it is a modified server, so I'm not sure if there's any increased gather rates. As we pan back over here, we're taking a look at the raid party, which again is estimated to be about 30 members. They have a staging base here, which appears to only have one door. Always, guys, you want to airlock those staging or forward operating bases because lots of valuable supplies are in there, and if that's compromised, oftentimes that's the end of a raid. So night has turned to dawn here, and the members are moving out. Because they have so many members to spare, they're able to put a lot of manpower on that high exterior stone wall. And that's how they're going to attempt to get into that compound. Those high exterior stone walls take a lot of pickaxes to get through, so it's wise that they allotted a lot of members to go ahead and focus on that. The arrows have started to fly, and guys, I haven't seen this many arrows in Rust at one time. This is pretty cool to watch. The defenders are, at this point, outnumbered, but they're doing exactly what they need to do. They're sticking to their towers here, they're firing back at the raiders, and they're attempting to use the tower to the best of their ability. Now, while the defenders are outnumbered, they do have the advantage of having constructed the compound, so they know the ins and outs of it, they know where the weak spots are and where the strong points are, so hopefully they can use that to their advantage. Look at all those arrows flying. This is really cool shit to see, guys. I haven't seen something like this before in Rust, and at first I wasn't sure how a raid like this would look, but it's pretty fun to watch. It was pretty fun to put it together. And as you can see, the first casualty that we were able to record there is a CLOT member who's gone down. It's best that they probably stick to the inner part of the tower rather than get up above at this point in time. So there are some embrasures there that they're using which are newly added to Rust, and the embrasures are really important because they're going to give them some added protection and shield them from the arrows. They're a little bit harder to shoot from because your arrows can also hit the embrasures on the inside as well, but as you can see here, the members stand a better chance if they utilize those embrasures. And as we go ahead, guys, and take a look at the compound here, it is surrounded by those high exterior stone walls, which again take a lot of manpower to get through. Because they don't have the benefit of having C4 on this server, they are getting through it in a relatively quick period of time because they have so many members here focused on that one task and have a lot of pickaxes with them, I would assume. You can see that that wall is starting to change color. If you guys aren't familiar with Rust, of course that means that that wall is about to go down. This is the inner part of the compound. As the wall goes down, they have to make their way of entry here, their entry point through the wall and then under a foundation. So if that foundation had been turned to stone, they wouldn't have been able to do that. You can only walk under the wood foundations. So they're now in the inner part of the compound here, the courtyard, and we can really get a sense of the scope of the raid party as they go ahead and go in there because you can see a lot of boots on the ground. They're coming out here and they're using survey charges. There's not C4 on the server, guys, but there are survey charges. So this is the best that they have to use, and they'll need a hell of a lot of survey charges, but it looks like they have a hell of a lot of survey charges. They're taking down the barricades, and they're attempting to focus on the foundation to get up in one of those towers. Again, we can see a lot of those survey charges going off, which again is something really cool to see in Rust because you don't often see this primitive level of gameplay, but it's cool to see a server with that modified rule set that's not vanilla. As you guys will notice here, the survey charges are doing their job, and that foundation and also wall are starting to turn black. The defenders are again using those towers to the best of their ability, and they're firing arrows out of there, attempting to sort of mitigate what's going on with that raid party and push those raiders back, kill as many of them as they can. The foundation's about to go down here because that is turning pretty dark there, and those survey charges are doing a fairly effective job. At this point in time, guys, it looks as though the raid party is going to attempt to breach one of these outer towers and make their way up into the base by means of doing that. So it should be interesting to see how that plays out. The survey charges have taken out a foundation, and the members are going up through that foundation up into one of the towers. And it looks like as they go up in here, there was a pre-existing ladder that was placed here by the defenders, and they're using that to get up to the top of the tower. And at this point, the raid party is overtaking one of those perimeter towers. So they've taken a tower for their own. This is giving the raiders a bit of a foothold on the inside of the compound. It gives them some added protection to be able to hide inside of that tower. And as you can see here, that tower gives them a vantage point throughout the courtyard. Also, better perspective on the inner part of that other tower that they're fighting against there. But most importantly here, they can jump from that tower onto the roof of the main base itself, the castle there. So you'll notice that some of the members are jumping off. The ones who don't quite make it do fall to their death. Now the trick here, guys, if you're wondering, is that if you jump and you're about to fall to your death, if you're able to hug a wall, you can actually slide down it and take minimal damage and survive. But the members who don't do that are falling to their death. So the ones who are jumping onto the top of the base here are able to get up here, and then once they're on the top of the base, they can go to one of the other towers, they can jump on it, or they can go down to the front part of the base, which has sort of a twig land bridge, which under that, as we looked at in the first part, had some spike barricades, which would be difficult. Some melee actions going on here. One of the CLOT members has come out here to sort of assess what's going on, and he was quickly dispatched. Cool seeing that melee fighting with the swords, which fits in perfectly with this medieval style gameplay. Another member's falling to their death there. So guys, notice that this tower has been overrun. It's been overtaken by the raid party. So at this point in time, the raid is shifting here, and the defenders really have to think about their defense at this point in time a little more carefully, because this castle is under siege at this point. So one of the twig towers for the land bridge has been taken out there, and under it you'll notice here that there's some of the raiders who are trying to take out this access point here so that the rest of the raiders can come in that way and focus their effort on one part of the base to be able to go ahead and get in there as quick as possible. It looks as though the raid party has overtaken another tower as well here. The CLOT members are at this point on the inside of the base, attempting to put up defenses and barricade and fortify that as best they can. As we pan out here, guys, you can see that that base hasn't been overrun by the raiders. What you're looking at here is mostly the raiders who are outside. There's not many CLOT members. One of the members just opened the door. He took an arrow to the dome, and he made a critical mistake here in that he didn't close the door behind him. He took an arrow to the dome, and the raid party is now in the castle with relatively little opposition. They've breached the throne room, which is the most critical part of the castle, and that's a big deal. So again, some melee actions going on here. Some of the CLOT members are coming back out here. They're realizing the severity of what just happened. And some melee actions going on here. Axes, swords, and then some bows as well. And again, that primitive style gameplay, really interesting shit to see. So they're again attempting to make access into the base a different way here. They can't get into the doorway here. I'm not sure if the raiders, if the defenders rather, had put down one of those barricades to impede their progress, but they have to go through a window here. So they're trying to shoot it out with the arrows and also use some melee weapons to go ahead and get through there. Looks like some of the defenders are on the inside, and they've decided to retreat. Back out here in the courtyard, you'll notice that some of the members are running back, and they're going back to that staging base. Notice here, guys, that the staging base is unlocked. Terrible mistake, guys. Don't ever do this with a forward operating base. They did airlock it, so that's good, but they left the doors open. No! All right, guys, we're going to turn this over to KCMO from the Rusty Pirates. He's going to take this one home.
Thanks, Fado. What an amazing raid so far. The defenders must have really pissed off the raiders to make them bring this many people to the raid. If you guys didn't know already, Rustification is a fairly small server at a 100 Newman limit. The attackers here have got to have the largest clan I've seen on the server. Notice, guys, that they're using bows as a raiding tool. Since there are no explosives besides survey charges, the only way to breach is by using either tools or bows. With the amount of people these guys have, they're really putting a number on the door. It's really interesting to see what people come up with to aid them during raids. Since there are no cores or pump jacks, there's really no use for survey charges other than destruction. As we pan out here, we can see the raiders running around the defenders' base pretty freely right now. Hopefully the defenders have something planned, because it would suck to lose an awesome castle like this one. The raiders are really working hard to get to the heart of the base here. Luckily, these guys are cutting down the soft side of the door, so it'll take far less tools to get through this door compared to if they were hitting on the hard side of the door.
Try and kill me, you piece of shit.
And it seems as the defenders are sending out nakeds as a last resort to try and pick up anything they can to use against the defenders. Unfortunately, there is no mercy for even the nakeds. A moment of silence for this brutally murdered naked. May his soul rest in peace. If you guys didn't notice, there are no colored shirts in the server, so it makes it super hard to tell enemy from foe. The raiders are able to sit on top of the defender's roof freely and snipe the defenders without them knowing that they are in fact an enemy. And it looks like the raiders are slowly but surely making their way into the King's Panic Room. But what could be in the King's Panic Room? And it looks like one of the defenders was able to single out a raider, and it looks like he has him on the run. And he jumps over the arrow, right on his tail, and he jumps over another arrow. Once again, guys, the bowman is running for his life, as he should, for the man who is able to jump over arrows. I'm starting to see a pattern here. And the defender goes down. Great fight though, Rainy. Now as we go back into the castle here, guys, the raiders are still working hard to get into the King's Panic Room. And these guys still have not learned their lesson. They keep falling to their death. Here's one of the TDOC clan members who must really hate cheese, leaving his allies to do all the dirty work for him. Here we have another raider going deeper into the castle, making quick work of the wooden doors with the survey charges. And a little bit of some healthy shit talking is always needed when raiding. A little overkill on the survey charges on this one though, but it looks like these guys have enough to spare. The only thing I can think of when looking into a room with this many Newmans is rockets. Where's the rockets? But once again, guys, there's no rockets on this server. And here we have the defenders admitting defeat and dropping all their loot on the floor to keep it away from the hands of the raiders. A lot of people do this to prevent the raiders from getting any of their goodies. And as we look in the room past the door, we can see a nice little trap waiting for the raiders on the other side. Hopefully, they don't rush in all at once. And down they go. Luckily, only 2 of them were dropped from the traps. Although if these guys were talking in TeamSpeak, I think they might have avoided one of the deaths. And one of the defenders comes out from hiding, giving it to the raiders with his trusty saber. And the raiders are in hot pursuit after a death of an ally. And the defender goes down. Now that the raiders have reached the main loot room and cupboard, the raiders can claim the base for their own. Overall, both sides put up a great fight. It didn't look like the defenders had anywhere near the numbers of the raiders, but they still had some good kills. One recommendation for the defenders I might suggest is to make sure they seal up the breach point as soon as they can, to prevent respawning raiders to being able to jump back into the fight so easily. And one thing to make sure of, guys, is to seal up those towers so the raiders can't easily jump up to the top of the base after only breaching one wall. Overall, this was a really fun raid to watch, and I'm glad I got a chance to see it. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and thank you, Fado, for letting me join you on this raid cam. If you guys want to check out my channel, click on the video on the left, and if you guys want to see another one of Fado's videos, click the video on the right. This is Casey Mo with Rusty Pirate Gaming, signing out.